Hello friends, welcome to JavaEE EJB JPA tutorial. Now you are watching part 4 of the subseries JPA relation 1 to n and n to 1. In this video we are going to add employee form using the JSP. So here is the preview of the previous slides. So we have two entities in hand right now. In the previous video, we implemented the bean layer and we implemented two functions. One is add employee, query jobs. These two functions we implemented in the previous video. Alright, bean layer is ready. Now we will go ahead and implement the Jsp file. So the form action takes place on create employee servlet. Method will be post, and if you see, there are static text, first name, middle name, last name, job level. And for this job level we are providing a helper text. Job level should be between 10 to 250. Why? Because the field is validated in the SQL server, so it's good to tell the user that the job level, whatever they enter, that should be in this range, 10 to 250. So these are all the static text, and if you see, we collect the input using the HTML text. So this is the input text box, and there are other input field to receive first name, middle name, last name, as well as a level. So there are four input field of type text, and you can see that here in the form. These text boxes are in different size, and if you see, the size attribute tells how many character width we want to specify. That means here it will accommodate 25 characters. This one, if you see, 3. Then definitely it will hold more, but that's how the size is defined. Next we have input, we have a HTML tag select. So this is to provide the choice box. Select name is job. So on change form, I think this is not required. So here we are opening a input field for select. Then select, we need to fill the content. So this is the select field. And inside the select field we need to fill the content. So what we do here, we are defining a list job array, initialize it to null. Then in the JSP itself we are creating the initialize context. So when we started our EJP learning, that time itself we used the initialized context. Later we started using EJP annotation when we and we used that extensively in the servlets and the bean layer. So here, since this is the JSP, and if you see here we are using the initialize context, then from the context we are making call to lookup, and for the lookup we are passing the emp job bean remote. So this is the bean we created in this subseries, and here we are directly accessing it from the JSP file. So if you watch our first two subseries, stateless session bean and stateful session bean, the same method we used. That means we used the initialize context and then we used the lookup method. And in those two videos, we also talked about how to get this string from the console output itself. Alright, so now we will be having the emp job bean remote, and we are holding the reference in EJB emp job. Then from EJB emp job, from this proxy, we are making call to query jobs. So query jobs we defined previously in our bean implementation, and you know what it will do. So it will select all the jobs and collects that as a entity array, I mean job entity array, and returns that to the caller. Here caller is the JSP and jobs is what we get, which is nothing but a list of job. So here we are iterating the job. So we initialize the job as null, then we are simply forming the for loop, index equal to 0, jobs.size. So how many rows returned, that we will be having here as a collection of entity, job entity. So we are iterating that. Then so this is a jobs collection, right? Jobs.get, we are passing the index, and thereby we are getting a single entity. Next, if you see option, so already we have a select tag, right? Inside that we will be defining multiple option tags. So this is plain HTML. Likewise it will go, and finally a last option, then select will end. So this is HTML, and here we are forming it dynamically. So we need to list all the option. So that's why we are running the for loop. We have the jobs collection here and option, that's the tag, value equal to job.getJobID. So here if you see option value, what we are setting here is the ID, that means the job ID. So when user picks a particular item and when they submits, what goes to the action, so the action will be in the servlet, right? When servlet retrieves this content, and when user selected chief financial officer, what you will be getting in the servlet is, or in the form processing unit, you will be getting the job ID. So you will not get the description whatever you are seeing here, but you will get the ID. This ID we can use to query the database and retrieve a specific entity. Alright, so here that's why when we are forming the option subtag, we are setting value as job ID. So from the job itself, so this is entity, right? From the entity itself we are making call to the getter method get job ID. So we will be retrieving the ID, and so this is the option tag, and if you see it is going like this. Option value is the attribute. For the value attribute we will be sending some ID, say for example 102, and this is coming from the getter method get job ID. after that, so this is the option tag, right? Description, whatever you are seeing here, that description we are forming here. Then finally we will close that option tag, and this is running inside the for loop, right? We are iterating through the job. So for each job we find, we will be defining an option field with the value equal to job ID and the description equal to get job description from the getter. And this is JSP's expression percentage equal to, and we are substituting whatever is returned by this get job ID, and we are closing this. And this is a static text exp demand, experience demand. Then from the job itself we are querying get minimum experience and get maximum experience. So these are all the information which we read from the database, and the values are displayed here. And if you see here, we will be getting job description, then exp demand static text. So this is dynamic content, static text experience demand, then again dynamic text minimum experience hyphen maximum experience. Database, from database, and from database we are retrieving 3 information, and this one also from the DB. So this is how we are forming the option tag, and finally we are closing this. So it's purely Java server page JSP syntax and scriptlet we are using. Finally we are closing our select tag. If you see, this is the for loop, right? For loop starts here and it ends here. After ending the for loop, we are closing our select tag. And before starting the for loop, in the previous slide we opened this select tag. Finally we have input type as submit, name as submit, and value as submit. That's all. Now it's demo time. We will implement this JSP file and we will see how it is displaying. But we cannot submit the JSP file. Why? Because the action takes place on the servlet and we haven't yet implemented the servlet, or we will not be implementing the servlet on this video, and we will do that in the next video of this subseries. Now we will concentrate only on creating the JSP file, and we will see the JSP form is displayed properly, and we will also see the combo box is loaded from the job database. Alright, so the project is loaded. The workspace is EJB coding example tube, and JSP file we need to create. So we are going to web application, and here in the web content we will go for new JSP file, and we will name the JSP file as createEmployee.jsp. We'll click next here, or you don't even need to type the extension. Why? Because here we are creating the JSP file. Template, new JSP file. So JSP with the HTML markup. After page directive, we are adding page include directive. And if you see, since we are using the initial context, so in the PowerPoint slide you saw, right, initial context, and from here we will make a call to lookup, and we will create a emp job being remote, and based on that we will make a call to the exposed methods. And list, since our query will, querying the list of job returns the result in the form of array list, we are importing java.util.list. Next, we need to import JPA entity job also, because job entity here we are retrieving, and we are using that to load the drop down list. So inside the body tag, first we create the HTML form. Action takes place in create employee servlet. Method is post. We haven't yet created this servlet, and we will do that in the next video. And if you see, there are 4 input field, and here we will put break, then pick a job, those stuff. So our form contains first name, middle name, last name, job level, pick a job, and here we need to load the drop down or combo box, right? So for that we need to make use of the JPA query, which is exposed through our Bean implementation. So here is the scriptlet code. Forget about this error, we will resolve it. Initial context emp job, and here in the lookup we are creating the remote instance. EJB job bean remote is the proxy, and from that proxy we are making call to query jobs. Here if you see, we are exposing 2 methods, right? One is query job and another one is add employee, and this will return a list of job. So once we make this EJB call, we will be getting the entity array, I mean job entity array, jobs is a list of jobs, right? Then here we declared a single entity, and we are opening a for loop. So there are other nice syntaxes available in the JSP to iterate through this, but to make the example simple, we are using the standard for loop. And since it's a list, jobs.get, based on the index, we are getting the single entity. So here if you see list jobs, initial context, here we are creating the initial context, then from the lookup we create the remote object, then we make a call to query employees, we are getting the list of jobs, we are making the iteration, and inside the iteration we are creating the action field, and description we are embedding here between the action tags. So after forming the action tag, we'll be closing the for loop. Then here is our select tag we are closing. After that we are having a submit button. We'll save this. First we will start the server. So server is started, and we will add the component. So this is our EAR archive file, which contains all the projects. Now we added this. So all are synchronized. It's still loading. Okay, now we got synchronized. In the console, if you scroll, you can see all the bean object. So far we created 7 or 8 subseries, right? And here if you see saving account bean, this is one bean we created, and after that we created a shopping cart bean. This is part of a stateful session bean demo. Then we created yump job bean remote, and this one is for our current demo. Then hello bean, this is our very first bean, I guess, stateless bean. So all beans are loaded here. And for yump job bean, if you see, these are all the URI that you can use inside the Jsp file. Say for example, here in the JSP Java Global EJB EAR yump job bean, right? So this is the one we are using. From console we picked this, and then we are using it here. Right, just for comparison I pasted it there. Now since it is deployed, so create employee JSP, run on server. It may take some time, we will wait. And if you see first name, mid name, last name, and here all the content is loaded from our database table. For comparison, let's go to SQL Server. So for example, let us pick the very first one. So let's take the second one as an example, and if you see, the content is getting displayed here. Chief Executive Officer, that is coming from job description. Chief Executive Officer. Then experience demand is coming from this minimum level and maximum level. That means from this database we are reading the content and displaying it when the form is displayed. And now user will create a new employee. They will provide, say for example, if they pick 120 to 200 marketing manager, the job level should not be 100, here it should be 130. For example, if a user is picking a job marketing manager, the experience demand is 120 to 200. That means job level, the user, they need to change it from 100 to a value which is within this specific range. Then they can submit, and the submit action will take place in a servlet, and that servlet we will implement in the next video. Here what happens, once they submit it, the employee will get created, and in the join we have a job pointed by the employee entity. We purposefully doesn't specify the attribute cascade. Why? Because here we don't want to create a new record in the job. Instead, we just want to link it. So new employee will get created in the employee, and the existing job will be mapped, and the field here in the employee will contain the job ID. Here in the employee, you can see the job ID. Job ID will get populated. That's all here in this video. Thank you for watching. Bye.